chief guest, our Deputy Chief Minister, Janab Mehmood Ali Saab, Sunil Sharma ji, Principal Secretary, Roads and Buildings and Transport, Honorable DGP, Shri Krishna Prasad Garu, Mr. Venkat Raman, Sudhakar Reddy, Kulwant Singh ji, Mr. Anand Rao, and to the distinguished gathering, ladies and gentlemen, to my friends from the media, many congratulations to one and all who's come from various parts of India. I think a big round of applause for you, to all of you who've come from various parts of India. I'm told this is the third edition of the Bus Alliance India Private Limited. The first, I believe, was in Mumbai. Second was in Goa. And third, I guess, you moved to Hyderabad because you had way too much partying in Goa, and then I think you figured, you had to be a little bit more sober. So I guess you moved to Hyderabad. Thank you for choosing Hyderabad. It's a great city for meetings, incentives, conventions, exhibitions. In fact, we've been doing very well on the MICE index the last 3 or 4 years. And I'm also delighted to look at the award. In fact, the plaque itself, it looks like you were inspired by the Oscars. I hope the Academy didn't mind to, the design. But many congratulations. But on a more serious note, I think after hearing the panel, after hearing our Transport Secretary and Mr. Anand Rao, and as being the Urban Development Minister, I can tell you from experience also, there is an issue of perception with respect to bus transport in India. Unless and until we actually admit to it as governments, as citizens, we'll not be able to make amends. The point I'm trying to make is, even today, any gentleman or any lady, in fact, in India, we look at car still as an indicator as you move up the social ladder, as a luxury buy as you move up the social ladder. So when you see somebody traveling by bus, more often than not, even if it could be in a rural setting or an urban setting, more often than not, it is not, most cases, it is not by choice. It is mostly because you don't have an option, or in some cases it is actually better. But if you look at the West, or you were talking about China, you were talking about Korea, you were talking about Japan, and how the density versus number of buses, etc., etc. The fact of the matter is, whenever you visit these countries, there are two things you would notice. One, the citizens, even those who are millionaires and who are quite well-to-do, quite affluent in the society, do not shy away from going into a public transport. In India, we still have that little bit of, I wouldn't say a city like Delhi where the metro has been very successful. I think a lot of ministers, a lot of members of parliament are also now riding the metro, which is a good sign, or maybe it's just the traffic in Delhi or the smog in Delhi that's really pushing them to take the metro. But I do believe that there is an issue of perception still with respect to buses in India, even as we speak. So I think this is one change that needs to come about, and it's a societal change, a sociological change, which is not going to come about overnight. I think it's a bit of a perception battle. And I think Ashok Leyland, I think the rest of the bus body makers in India, the bus builders in India, need to also start addressing it, make bus rides that much more cooler, that much more swankier. You talked about passenger comfort. You talked about how passengers have become more demanding, how passengers want on-bus Wi-Fi, how passengers want infotainment, how passengers want safety, how passengers want everything that you would get possibly, say, in an airplane at this point in time. If you're able to provide all that, and if you're able to give them the comfort of a ride which definitely is on par with the best they could have gotten in the private sector or in the cushiness of their own luxury vehicles, I think then there would be a level playing field for you to actually elevate your game, contest, and obviously take more away from the market. See, it goes without saying, I think the bus operators in India, be it the private sector, or as eloquently put by our Principal Secretary here, the road transport corporations in India, they've all been doing their bit. But obviously the road transport corporations have a huge challenge. We also have a social obligation. We cannot actually deny an opportunity to ply in a route where we don't make money. Because for us as a government, for us as a government-owned entity, our primary obligation is connectivity even to the remotest parts of the state. So therefore you don't have the luxury as a state road transport corporation not to ply or choose not to ply in certain routes. But at the end of the day, one thing is a certainty. I think India as a country, and any country with a great population density like India, like China, cannot do with one mode of transport. We have to have the multimodal transport happening. Today our air traffic in Hyderabad airport has been growing at 20-25%. Our rail traffic has been growing. Cargo has been growing. Passengers in the buses are growing. And if you actually look at the number of vehicles in the Hyderabad city today, we already have a gridlock situation. So our urban infrastructure needs to improve. The multimodal connectivity needs a significant improvement. And the more important thing, I think, with the increase in number of vehicles, we've had governments do some very, very interesting things. I think many of you from Delhi would know the odd-even rule. एक गवर्नमेंट को ऐसा भी करना पड़ा कि थोड़े दिन, एक हफ्ते में आप एक नंबर का गाड़ी चलाइए और ये ऑड नंबर का गाड़ी चलाइए, कुछ और दिन कोई और चलाइए. मतलब इस हद तक जाना पड़ता है कि I'm glad it was, sir. I'm saying nothing against Mr. Kejriwal in case you thought I was about to say something. All due respect. Point I'm trying to make is, we are resorting to extreme measures. We, as a government, unfortunately or fortunately, we are forced to think about extreme measures, is the point I'm trying to make. The only solution that I see, as a responsible citizen and not as a minister who is part of a government, is two things. One, as much as Sunil Sharma ji would like us to believe that our roads are good, I think they're not where they should be. In fact, our roads need significant uplift. Our roads need significant investment. And I'm very delighted that Union government under Shri Nitin Gadkari ji, in fact, whenever I walk into his room in Delhi, I always am inspired because of two reasons. One, he's a very agile minister. He's a minister who's in touch with the grassroots. I'm delighted that he's actually at the helm of affairs of a very, very important portfolio. Two, whenever you walk into his office, there is a signage which you can't miss, which goes, America is rich because of its roads. America does not have good roads because it is rich. America, in fact, after the national highway system was built, after the infrastructure was built, a lot of business options opened up. A lot of interesting options have opened up. So I think as a government, be it be it the federal government or the state government, our bounden duty is to constantly keep working on improving the infrastructure to keep in sync with the demand that is growing on the transportation side. The second thing we ought to be doing, I think we also have to start working on this multimodal transport solutions. For example, Hyderabad Metro is shaping up well. In fact, we're set to launch it sometime this year. Each and every time there is a metro opening somewhere else, I keep getting my tweets and I keep getting a lot of messages on my social media page saying, when is Hyderabad Metro being launched? So I assure you, it is being launched very soon this year, and I'm hopeful that with Metro being integrated, with good quality bus shuttle service from each and every railway station, because I think it's important. You don't want people to come and umpteen vehicles in their private vehicles, come and choke your metro stations again. You need good shuttle services. You need large volume players coming in, tying up with Hyderabad Metro. That's why I insist that it has to be a multimodal transport solution. It cannot be in isolation. The second thing we ought to be working on, in fact, the number of private buses that ply through Hyderabad today, intercity or intra-city or interstate for that matter, is quite high. In fact, I would guess that it would be much higher than the Road Transport Corporation's vehicles. In fact, even the numbers, if you look at it, I think Mr. Anand Rao presented it. It was 1.5 lakhs of Road Transport Corporation vehicles, whereas it is 1.5 million in the private sector. So it goes without much thought or research. In fact, you don't have to think too much in terms of making a statement that it's the private vehicles which are plying through our arterial roads in Hyderabad and other metros today. So therefore, the need to build more intercity bus terminals. Hyderabad, in fact, had designed and had floated a tender for one intercity bus terminal, ICBT, in Miapur about 5 years ago, which never took off. Now, the new government of Telangana has taken a decision that we will be building 4 new ICBTs in the days to come. We are calling for bids. So that way, we don't have buses parked in a haphazard fashion, causing a lot of traffic inconvenience, taking away the carriageway as well. Secondly, completely agree on the theory and on the statistics there that bus is more safer compared to any other transport solution that's available today. So I think that needs to be set out more clearly, more louder, and the public at large, in fact, if you invite them with the kind of comfort they're expecting, with the kind of safety measures they're expecting, I think they'll only come, start plying and start working with you more. And the second thing we also ought to be working on, which government of Telangana again is doing, is also focusing on the logistics side. It's not just the passengers that can be plied using your buses. In fact, there was a standing committee from Government of India, a parliamentary standing committee, which visited us about 1 year ago, and which gave a recommendation to Government of India and Niti Aayog that Hyderabad potentially could be the logistics hub of India. So logistics and transportation is one of our key thrust areas. In fact, we are building 2 logistics terminals on the outer ring road. In fact, one of its kind, a 160-kilometer, 8-lane expressway. We are also trying to leverage it and take away the large chunk of city traffic, be it in the form of buses or cars. So we are building more logistics hubs. We are building more ICBTs. We are trying to build better roads. And as you plan on coming out with more and more vehicular options, more newer options, we are also awaiting, like you guys, the new EV policy from Government of India. In fact, I had a discussion with Honorable Union Minister, Shri Nitin Gadkari, requested him to exempt EVs from GST as well. We really have to encourage hybrids. We really have to encourage electric vehicles. The only way Government of India can do it, or state governments can do it, is by way of also giving some incentives for private bus operators and also for road transport corporations to actually adopt quickly. So all in all, my good wishes to the entire Indian bus industry. I know you guys have been doing a fantastic job with or without, in fact, a great deal of support from the governments. But I do assure you, the government of Telangana looks at logistics and transportation as one of the key sectors. So we are looking forward to a variety of projects coming our way. In fact, hybrids, EVs, we are very open to possibilities. We are also, in fact, thankful to Ashok Leyland for entering into an MOU with us for launching a building unit in Hyderabad. If there are any other private players who are also keen to invest in the state of Telangana in this sector, we are more than happy to discuss with you. Thank you very much for inviting me here, and have a great night.